All right, welcome back to the assembly video of the E-Flite 1.2m bind and fly Corsair. So if you watched the previous video, that was the unboxing, and you can see there's not many parts to this thing. The very first step is actually to put on the horizontal stabilizer. It just takes a single screw on here. So we already have it kind of mocked up in place here. Let's go ahead and attach it. And this takes an Allen screw, and it just tightens down in the back here. You gotta make sure you don't over tighten. All right, there we go. And that just takes a, let's see, what size is that? That is a, looks to be a 5/64 Allen key. Same size as it's used on the E-Flite, the P51. And now we're actually gonna go ahead and flip the aircraft over here. There we go. What's nice about these 1.2m planes is they fit pretty nicely on these PVC stands that I made. Next step is to go ahead and install the control horn. We'll double check the manual here. And it says that it wants the outermost hole is the proper placement for this control horn. Okay? And before we do that, I'm actually going to cycle the hinge here just a few times here. I just want to kind of loosen some of the resistance up here before going ahead and installing it. Okay, there we go. And it looks like, I haven't bound anything yet, of course, but it looks like we may have to do some adjusting there, or the servo is off a little bit. The reason is I can just see how much deflection the elevator has there. But yeah, once we get it powered up, you'd be surprised. A lot of times that will change dramatically once everything goes through its setup. So the next step, if we're going to want to look at the manual, I'm betting it's going to be install the wings. Oh, look at that, it sure is. Now there's a number of wires that come with this, some extension wires, and we're going to want to make sure we get those installed as well. I'm going to pull the canopy hatch off here because we want to make sure that we can get access down through here and then into the receiver. Let's go ahead and let's pull these wires together here. We have gear, flap, and aileron, and I'm wondering, does it tell us which one to do first? Because I'm trying to decide if it's easier to I think it's going to be easier to install these on the wing first and then feed them through. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, so we installed the Y cables here. We have flap and flap assembled. We have gear and gear, aileron and aileron. So right now they're all assembled. So we'll go ahead and feed those through the cavity that is in the fuselage that will lead into the receiver. So we'll kind of push those down the side there. It's not too many wires here. Of course, it doesn't have lights or anything, so it's not too bad. And we'll just kind of pull those through. This is why it's easier to do with the canopy off. Okay, there we go. And you put the wing on, you put the front leading edge in first. There's a little locking tab there. There we go. And then it simply sets in like that. Starting to look like a Corsair, isn't it? All right, so let's go ahead and grab our fasteners. There are 4 left, which is great because there are 4 places to put them. One thing I have noticed, just as I'm putting this assembly together, the oil coolers that are in the wing, and that's in this in the leading edge of the kind of the step down portion of the wing, aren't very detailed. On my Parkstone Corsair, those are a lot more detailed. So I'll probably have to come up with some creative way to kind of make those look a little bit more realistic. There's usually like a honeycomb pattern in the outer round part, and that's the oil cooler, and then there's some vertical fins that are not in the model. So that's a good area that could obviously need a little extra help in terms of detailing. I'm not sure how I will do it yet, but I think I can get that done. Okay, just tighten these up, make sure we don't over tighten up, but we want them snug. All right, those are all tight. So now it's really looking like a Corsair here. Let's go ahead and turn it around here. All right, look at that. Wings are installed, tail's installed. It is looking like a Corsair. Okay, we'll turn it over. At this point, I'm not going to bother going through this at this time just because I'm going to end up taking it apart here later. But at this point, you'd want to go ahead and install all your Y cables. So we have flaps, ailerons, gear to install. Throttle, rudder, and elevator are already done. And then usually at this time, I'll usually find a spot to put the antenna wire here so that it doesn't get damaged or hung up. So we'll just move it out of the way for now. There we go. And then I usually take a zip tie and just kind of clean up that wiring a little bit so it doesn't look like quite the rat nest in there. There we go, put that on. Next up is the prop. And the prop itself, of course, is the same as the P51 and the P47. It's a 4-blade, which would be, of course, if you know your Corsair history, it's going to be a later war prop. That's when they used the 4-blade. And it has a really cool little plastic adapter here that gives it a good scale look. Also, a little tip here: the yellow on the prop tips goes towards the front, and the black goes on the back. Now, if you're like me and plan to use a 3-blade prop or want more scale and want to go ahead and make that color coded on both sides, just be known that the numbers on the prop always face forward. Okay, that is pretty slick. So now we have a nice hub on the prop. Go ahead and slide this on. Go. And it's got a weighted prop nut as well. So we go ahead and put this into place. Go. And since we don't have any screwdrivers with us, we just have our Allen keys. We'll use an Allen key to tighten it. Okay, there we go. Not too tight, just nice and snug. So that concludes the assembly of the E-Flite 1.2m bind and fly F4U-4 Corsair. So next steps would be, of course, let's assume that I have everything plugged in here. I would put the battery in. I would determine if I'm going to fly on a 2200 or 3300 or whatever battery I'm going to be using. I'm going to set my center of gravity per the manual, which if I just flip ahead here a few pages, it is 73 millimeters plus or minus 3 millimeters from the leading edge of the wing is the center of gravity position. So I would set my CG up, and then I would grab my trusty DX6 and the bind plug, and I would bind the aircraft and then run through a complete control system check, make sure the landing gear operate, the flaps operate, everything operates correctly. And then I would do a small engine run up, just enough to make sure everything spins properly, and I want to get it above 25% to engage AS3X, and then I will do a check of the AS3X system to make sure that it behaves as intended. And if all that checks out to be good, take it to the field, give it a range check, put it in the air. So if you guys got any questions on how to assemble this relatively easy Corsair here from E-Flite, by all means, leave your comments below. And make sure you subscribe, because we're going to be taking this aircraft and stripping it completely down and doing a full repaint of it over the winter. So when it re-emerges in the spring, it will look nothing like it does now. The hard part of that is that when I see the airplane looking like this and say, man, this thing is so cool looking, just the way it is from the factory, I can't believe that I'm going to go through a massive project to repaint this thing, because it honestly, pictures don't really do it justice. When you see it here on the workbench and you put it together and you've kind of handled it, you're like, yeah, it actually looks a lot cooler in person than it did on the pictures of the website. So that's about it. That wraps up the assembly video. And you know, if you guys like warbirds, I strongly encourage you guys to keep buying them and keep active in the RC forums when it comes to the warbirds. Those of us who really love the fighter planes and the World War II stuff don't ever want to see it going away. So if you like this stuff, by all means, keep adding it to your hangar like I'm doing, because they are extremely rewarding to own, rewarding to fly, rewarding to look at, and it's cool to bring a piece of history to life even if it's in RC form. And we want to make sure that warbirds stay part of the hobby, so by all means, go out and buy some. But otherwise, if you guys got any questions, let me know.